For the next species, we have a deep-sea organism from K218b, a tidally locked water world with 8.5 times the mass of Earth. The coloration of Trilaton webi is black and magenta due to the infrared radiation from the red dwarf K218. Using the antenna on its body, Trilaton webi slowly traverses the ocean floor looking for the carcasses of other animals. It's a very simple species, not needing much intelligence to survive. The next species, Atarmis mendelevium, lives on the extremely hot planet Tau Ceti e. It hides in the ground waiting for prey to walk by. It has giant green leaf structures that simulate the plant-like organisms of the planet. However, these leaves shed during the winter period on this planet, which can last for 5 months. They're green due to Tau Ceti being a yellow dwarf. Once a creature walks by, the bristles on its back sense the vibrations. This tells Atarmis mendelevium to jump out of the ground and attack. Breathing carbon dioxide and exhaling oxygen, it takes up the position of plants on its planet. The one downside to this species is its inability to move quickly. It's very difficult for it to pull the large green leaf-like structures around. Of all the predators in the galaxy, 51 Pegasides, Emusector darwini might be the most terrifying. Being 8 feet tall, it lives in the plains of the 1.9 Earth-mass planet. It has developed camouflage in order to hide from prey. Then, once a creature is spotted, it runs at over 72 miles per hour and stabs them with its calcium iron-based beak. Then, using a small opening at the end of the beak, it drinks the bodily fluids of the animal. But it isn't the only predator in its area. So, in order to detect danger, it has a large smelling organ on the back of the head as well as a 360-degree view of its surroundings due to the flexibility of its 4 necks. Going back to the water worlds, we visit GJ1061d. Orbiting a red dwarf, all life on this planet lives in the ocean beneath the surface. Our species, Harpsness gembostis, is a filter feeder that floats around all day. It's generally a peaceful species and uses the openings on its sides to collect small organisms. It has complex light-sensing organs on the sides of its head that perceive various wavelengths. It then has bioluminescent flaps on the bottom that convert the water current into energy. The tentacles on the bottom are there to collect decaying matter, which is then absorbed in. It breathes oxygen that is in the air pockets formed by underwater volcanoes right up against the crust. It can take a breath, dive, and then not need to breathe again for 23 hours. The next species is very dark. It hails from Kepler 186f, a large, cold planet. Due to the slow rotation of the planet, night can last for 2 months. Because of this, Floribates euclidus has developed a large 10-foot by 5-foot pad on its back that absorbs as much of Kepler 186's infrared radiation as possible. Then, it goes into a form of hibernation during the night periods. It slowly traverses the planet, pulling itself with 2 small arms. It lures prey with a sound resonating chamber in its mouth, having the prey literally walk into the mouth before it closes. After that dark and colorless species, we'll move on to a more vibrant animal. Arthroranodon anning is a methane-breathing, air-piercing species from TOI 700e. It soars through the sky at high velocities and filter feeds, eating the microbes in the air. The animal requires 5 other mates in order to produce eggs, so it attracts them with the bright colors all over its body. It only ever lands to lay eggs. The next creature is also a flying animal, except this one never lands, because it physically can't. Silecta kurskazatum lives on a gas giant, Imahara 4e. Gas giants don't have a rocky surface, only atmosphere. Because of this, Silecta has evolved to fly around for its whole life, breathing the hydrogen and oxygen in the atmosphere. Imahara 4e is 4 times larger than Earth, meaning it has a very powerful magnetic field. Silecta kurskazatum evolved an appendage that picks up on this magnetic field and then rides it at supersonic speeds. If it needs to slow down, it can unfold its membrane into a parachute. If you'll recall, we previously had a planet with no atmosphere, Nova 963-2b. Our next species comes from a similar planet, Savage 42bb, although Savage 42bb orbits a yellow dwarf star in a triple star system, not a black hole. The entire ecosystem of the planet lives in the crust. Jadrilus clarki, our species, is one of the largest species on the planet, reaching 7.2 feet in length. It uses specialized bristles to navigate its environment as it plows through the dirt. Once prey is found, it envelops them in its giant mouth and proceeds to digest them. It searches the crust for condensed methane pockets, which it uses in order to breathe. All of these exoplanets have very weird names. Why is that? Well, since we've discovered so many planets, and have infinitely more to discover, scientists give scientific names to planets. Let's take the previously mentioned Gliese 667cc. The first part, Gliese, comes from Wilhelm Gliese, who published a catalog of stars with 915 entries. Many stars within about 82 light-years of the Sun are named Gliese. The number is just further specification to separate it from other stars. The next part, the capital C, shows that it is the third star in a triple star system. The second C shows what planet it is. The C is the only difference between the name of the planet and the name of the star. A planet would have the letter B if it is the first planet in the star system, C would be the second, and so on. For entry 21, we have Frankorololus, another flying creature. It comes from an ice giant called Mike 55d. With an average temperature of negative 304 degrees Fahrenheit and a mass 3.5 times that of Earth, life had a hard time evolving on this planet. But it did. The 41-foot-long Frankorololus spends its life collecting hydrogen chloride in the atmosphere and eating smaller creatures. Despite its immense size, it's very light and can easily soar. If it ever needs to land on an ice chunk, it has 6 legs to stabilize it. These creatures can live up to 290 years and are by far the largest thing on their planet. A similar species evolved on a similar planet. Rober C is 2.3 times the mass of Earth and has an average temperature of negative 109 degrees Fahrenheit. Ventum Jovacus evolved in similar, although less harsh, conditions to Frankorololus. Iron-based and nitrogen-breathing, this creature propels itself through the sky in search of food. It rides wind currents that carry it all around the planet. Coming in at 18 feet long, its minimalistic nature allows it to survive in almost any temperature. The next creature is very, very advanced compared to all of the others. Hailing from CDH-CTO-10d, Xanosapiens, or the Thorntonids, is the first civilized species on the list. Its planet is 40% more massive than Earth and has a lot more oxygen. These fascinating creatures are highly intelligent and have developed technology, culture, and even a strange complex language that sounds like this. They've even been to space, managing to keep someone in orbit for about 5 Earth days. CDH-CTO-10d orbits a yellow dwarf and gets 31% more sunlight than Earth. Because of this, Thorntonids have evolved a large light-sensing organ on the top of their head. They have a very weird body. Their mouth is on the back of their neck, and they have a large red skin flap on their neck for attracting a mate. They're apex predators, using their size to decimate prey. Due to the average temperature of 84 degrees Fahrenheit, 25 degrees hotter than Earth, Thorntonids evolved flaps along their body that cool them down by flapping air. They have goals, such as putting someone on another planet, but they're still decades away from that. Next up is a simple yet odd species called Bashicus godulus. It comes from the giant planet of LP890-9c. The star is a red dwarf, and because of the thick atmosphere, not much light gets in. So, Bashicus doesn't have eyes. It's a small animal, only reaching 24 inches in total. The body is broken up into 5 main segments and 3 special segments. The middle segment has the mouth on the bottom. It also has a sharp tail it uses to stab prey. But its most important feature are the 2 purple segments. They are called bashers, and as the name implies, they are used to bash prey to death. Bashicus godulus then drags itself over the dead prey, eating it with the mouth on the bottom of the middle segment. As far as weirdness goes, the next species is high up on the list. Squillitantes bowman is a 4-gendered, oxygen-breathing creature from the Garden Star B. The species, like Tripestis bryocoxy and Xenostractus naeum, experiences gender dimorphism. The largest of the genders is 14 feet long. The second is 12.3 feet, the third 6.4, and the smallest is 4.1 feet. All of them do have some features in common though. They all have a red coloration on the top of their bodies, which is camouflage. The red color mimics a parasitic organism that feeds on other species. Not only does it deter the actual parasite, but it makes predators think that they'll get infected if they eat it. But not all are fooled. So, in order to escape, it does something special. It has an organ in the back that stores air. This causes the animal to float on top of the water, with only the flotation organ exposed. It sits there looking for predators and prey. Once it sees something, like prey, it expels the compressed gas, propelling it forward at lightning speed so it can get its prey. It uses the same tactic to get away from predators. During the coldest part of the year, millions of squilletantes gather up in deep trenches to breed. They use their bioluminescent flaps in order to find each other. The next species puts squilletantes' weirdness to shame, however, as it is one of the strangest species around. Yettis galileus is a 26.4-foot tall monster. It comes from TRAPPIST-1e, a planet with only 82% the gravity of Earth, which allows life forms to be much taller. Yettis galileus is an iron-based life form and breathes the carbon dioxide that fills the atmosphere. TRAPPIST-1e does not receive as much light as Earth. This is mainly because the host star, TRAPPIST-1, is a red ultra-cool dwarf. Not nearly as powerful as the Sun, but much longer lived. Estimates show that TRAPPIST-1 could live to be 12 trillion years old, 2,000 times older than the Sun. It could very well be one of the last stars in the universe. Anyway, due to the lack of light, Yettis galileus has evolved to use other senses. It has a bunch of sensory organs on the top of its head that it uses to sense the world. Living in a copper-rich environment, the blood is blue. Like many other species on TRAPPIST-1e, this creature primarily uses sound to navigate. To catch prey, the species has developed a tail with textures similar to other species' food. The sound waves bounce off just the same. Once the sound waves hits the tail, a special membrane senses this and lets the sound waves pass right back through it. Once the prey gets close, it uses the prehensile tail to rip apart and then digest the prey. All of these extraplanetary life forms are interesting, but what about something closer to home? Earth is not the only place where life could emerge in our solar system. Getting past the boring stuff, Mars and Titan have microbes on them. Well, Mars had microbes. After the atmosphere got blown off, Mars's Xenoprimer Perseverance became extinct. Many years later, humans may have discovered the fossils of this microbial life form, but it hasn't been confirmed yet. On Titan, one of Saturn's moons, the extremely cold temperatures created ammonia and methane oceans, where Microtitanus opportunity has evolved. It has a specialized form of cell membrane called an azotosome that can handle liquid methane. For the last entry in our documentary, we visit one of Jupiter's moons, Europa. Europa is covered in ice, all over. However, underneath all that ice is a moon-wide ocean. This is home to Cobetethys epicurum, or the Europans. They live in a cobalt-rich environment, which is responsible for their dark blue coloration. They communicate through musical-like chords which cannot be produced by humans. As an advanced civilization, Europans are centuries ahead of humans in development, having complex technologies which people couldn't dream of. They have 4 genders experiencing gender dimorphism. Their names are FQ, SM, PA, and MG. Their names, loosely, come from the first letters of the Latin words for half male, half female, 50 male, and 50 female. Each gender has different colored bioluminescence, which they can see with a light-sensing organ on their head. The largest gender, FQ, is 16 feet tall and has green bioluminescence. The second largest, PA, is 14.1 feet tall and has orange bioluminescence. The second smallest is SM, which is 5.6 feet tall and has pink bioluminescence. And then the smallest gender is MG, only reaching 5.3 feet tall and possessing turquoise bioluminescence. Both PA and SM have beak-like structures on their face, but MG and FQ have their beaks on their front tentacle. They all have 7 tentacles in total. But the one thing they have all in common is an electromagnetic sensing organ on the front of their head. This type of science is very new. Astrobiology is a very difficult subject to teach as there are just so many factors that we don't understand, and we won't until we actually discover alien life. Until then, we can only speculate. But maybe that's enough.